Well, our boys couldn't keep up the magic against the LA Kings tonight, unfortunately falling to the Kings 4-2. The season series is complete, and the Sharks stand at 6-2 versus the Kings this season, and we will be with you right after this. But first, if you want to be a part of the show, please go ahead and follow us on the social media platforms that are Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, SoundCloud, Reddit, Discord, all of course at Teal Town USA. And then, of course, you can always find the great content that we are spitting out on tealtownusa.com. Today, I am joined by Mr. Ian Reed. Ian, how are you doing this evening?
Fantastic.
Well, if that didn't sound like sarcasm.
No, I'm good. Like I'm good, honestly. Like what is like I know some people like probably are gonna expect us to be angry or whatever, but like this is a return to reality.
Exactly. And I think, I think both me and you have been really pushing the brakes on like just any kind of ideas of going anywhere because, quite frankly, the team has these kind of ugly performances and kind of just shows us why they're not ready yet. You know what I mean? So, unfortunately the Sharks fall tonight 4-2. And I mean, getting off into that first period, they were playing some really good defensive hockey, I thought, in the first 10 minutes of the first period, but kind of a series of mistakes there on that Jeff Carter goal, a blown assignment, and Jeff Carter in with his 8th on the season. Athanasiou and Anderson both getting the assists there. I think that there was... I think that they were changing some around of those assists, but I think they finally nailed it down. But yeah, I mean, let's just talk about, again, it seems like nightly the Sharks are committing 1, 2, 3 major gaffes in their own zone that are legit scoring chances. And I felt like they've been getting really lucky, in the prior 4 or 5 games that they weren't getting scored on. But again, this
I don't know if it was lucky so much as they were just getting better goaltending than they got tonight. Like I'm not gonna just completely bag on Jones because I don't think he was awful tonight, but he wasn't as good as he has been of late.
Right.
So like I think lucky, or I think they got better goaltending than they got tonight. Not that, no, again, I'm not saying that Jones was terrible tonight. I just don't think he was great. And unfortunately, when the Sharks have looked well, Jones has had to be great, because this team is a complete cluster F on defense most of the time.
Yeah, I think that, again, we're still seeing consistent mistakes in their own zone. A lot of guys either just gliding past a defender or the team just not nailing them when they could, getting the bodies on the men in front of the net, and honestly, it's just poor net play, right? So, not really much Jones can do there. He's the play is kind of already broken down. But again, to me, this is squarely on the defense right now. Šimik, I think, kind of overcommits a little bit and then doesn't take his stick and allows him to glide right into the blue paint. And Jeff Carter in the blue paint, I don't care, how washed up he is. He's still got some hands. You know what I mean?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, obviously not the player that he once was, but. He still has moments where if you let him in too close with the puck, he's still got good hands, like you said, and he can make you pay.
Yeah, exactly. So, unfortunately, Šimik a little bit victimized there on that one, but I think in general the team, kind of waded into this one a little bit. I kind of felt like they had some really stone kind of legs in that first. I felt like both teams really looked pretty tired.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, you with that being said, you also had the young legs though on that third line chipping in a goal. Gambrell, Leonard, and Yaros. And I tell you what, Ian, I think to me, Gambrell has really made a argument to be re-signed on a small deal and to kind of solidify that third line spot because I'm seeing more and more growth from him, and his defensive play has been excellent all season.
Yeah, but if you're gonna be like, I still feel like if you're gonna be a third line guy, like you need more than 5 goals.
Now we were talking about this last night with Dylan, and I'm gonna pull up his season output, but I think we were saying that he's on pace for a career year. So I agree with you. You do need more out of that center position on that third line, but I think he's going in the right direction. And
Yeah, I think he's been better. I think he's been better. The problem with for me with Gambrell is and I think he is on a decent pace for points this year, but that's got to be consistent, right? Because like he needs to improve year over year at this point because otherwise like he's not grindy enough to be a fourth line guy. But if you're
because
not grindy enough to be a fourth line guy and you're not good enough to be a third line guy, then what are you? A first line AHL guy?
right, he's in that tweener kind of no
Like
man's
I like
land.
Dylan Gambrell, and I don't want to I don't want everyone to think, oh yeah, they lost, so Ian's gonna come and just tear apart everyone. But I don't know. I think they should take. They probably. I think if I'm Doug Wilson, I'm gonna look around this summer, and if I can't find anything better, then maybe I bring Dylan Gambrell back on a short, again on another short contract and see what he does.
Yeah, yeah,
Still an RFA, as far as I know. Let me go check his stats here because we all know that Doug Wilson, especially the ones without ARB, I think he's probably got ARB rights at this point. But let me take a peek.
yeah.
I
And
just want to talk on my rear end here.
yeah, and quickly, from
Yeah,
the
he does have arbitration rights, but even still, like Doug Wilson, for all the things that I get angry at Doug Wilson for, one thing that he's done really well is he is absolutely just ruthless on these RFA deals. Um, I think he has arbitration rights, but I mean, again, are you afraid of Dylan Gambrell taking your arbitration? No.
right. Hot Wheels 84. I love this. Gambrell is going to be traded for a first a la Gaudreau. I take
Oh,
that
there you
trade every day and twice on Sunday. If they can extract, if somebody's willing to give up a second or a third, I think I'm seriously listening in on that offer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he can be moved for the right price. So
Yeah, I think you look like I think you might take a look, and if you can find somebody at a similar price point that you think might get you a few more points, then maybe that's a thing. I don't know. I'm not sure what you do with Gambrell at this point. Like, I don't dislike Gambrell, but I'm not super bold on him either.
yeah, not sold. I think that that's the kind of the gist here is just not sold on what he is.
Yeah.
What is he? I mean, so I think I'm on the same page with you there on Dylan Gambrell. I like the direction, but is it a little too late to kind of salvage where he's going to be at? I don't know, but we'll kind of see going in and see where the team ends up on him later on in the season, because he's going to need either a new contract or he's going to need to be moved for something or asset, trying to get assets back for him.
Yeah, he's a controlled asset. So, okay. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if I wouldn't be shocked if Doug Wilson brings him back, but you could still bring him back and put him on a two-way deal again, and or even a cheap one-way deal.
Yeah.
Big deals. If he doesn't make the team, you have to pay him 800 grand to play in the HL. Oh no.
Yeah. I mean, Rob Iman coming up with Sorensen might have played his last game as a Shark. I mean, but who wants him? I know that we think that there are teams out there wanting Marcus Sorensen, but if you just watch the games, he's just, for me, Ian, it's just a guy that's not bringing it every night. You know what I mean? It doesn't seem like he's really taking the reins on a position, and I don't know. What are your thoughts on Sorensen?
You know what? Like, Sorensen's one of those guys where I'm like, whatever. And then, it's like one of those guys that, some GM is going to be dumb and be like, oh, I don't know. I don't watch him play, so I want this guy. Could you get something for him? Maybe. I don't know what he brings, though. Like, I don't know. Like, if I look at a contender and I'm like, what contender needs Marcus Sorensen? I don't think anyone needs Marcus Sorensen, but I can't think of I can't think of a contender. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
Exactly. I mean, Jim A in Florida. He brings up Sorensen might get you a third on a good day. I mean,
if someone's going to give you a third for Marcus Sorensen, you absolutely take it. I just don't like. It's one of those things where maybe he'll get traded and I'll be like, yeah, okay, I can see that. But I don't know. It's one of those things where I feel like I'm just, maybe I'm just too sour on this specific player to be objective. And I can definitely be there at some times, where sometimes I think my objective, I don't see Marcus Sorensen's value at all. But I mean, maybe it's just because I'm too sour on that player and I'm not, it's messing with my objectivity. It happens.
Yeah. No, but I don't disagree with you on Sorensen. So we'll go moving into that second period, and the Sharks. I mean, Ian, that's got to be one of the more sloppier second periods I've seen this team play. I mean, clearly they are not either they're so tired that they can't make their changes on time, or they're forgetting to make quick 45-second shifts, because there were guys caught out there on a lot of long shifts. There seemed to be a lot of zone time for the Kings. It was just a horrible start to that second period. I mean,
yeah, another second period that was definitely not one for the books. And I think this is where the Sharks get in trouble, especially on the defensive end. Like, obviously, Knyzhov played a ton of minutes, actually a surprising amount of minutes compared to Radu Šimić. And even Jaros played 10 minutes, but I think it's one of those things where I think when, because Vlasic, whatever you say about Vlasic can still eat a ton of minutes. Maybe not as well as he used to. Like, maybe he's not as effective as he used to. But I just feel like, when you start missing guys like that in the lineup, then I find that some guys, especially the Brent Burnses and Erik Karlssons of the world, maybe try to do too much to compensate.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm looking at this goal kind of again, and it just looks like Athanasiou kind of creeps. Athanasiou with his 9th on the year at 2 minutes 28 seconds, and again, it's just a busted coverage, and that was on Dylan Gambrell. He needed to have a better position on Athanasiou there. He's got to be more aware, especially in and around the net. And unfortunately, he was the goal scorer, and we were praising his game in that first period. But in the second period, I think just the whole team just looked disjointed, and the Kings capitalized and really made their money in that period. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. If you look for like the numbers between the first, second, and third period, like the second period was where things really kind of fell off the rails. Unfortunately for the Sharks, and it's one of those situations where you you can't you fall off the rails, and then it's hard to get back on when you put yourself in a hole. It's hard to get yourself back out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then in the next goal, which was scored, I think, basically on the next shift, you've got Erik Karlsson, who just is dogging it back to the net. He's gassed, and this team needed to execute a better change than that. Unfortunately, you got Kanishov drifting into the center, on the blue line, and you don't know what he's kind of doing there. You've got was that Yaro? No, it wasn't Yaros. Who was that? 40.
Is that
Oh, I think it was VL.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that that goal, the Iafallo goal, to me was really where
43 is Leonard.
Oh, 43. Okay. Yeah, the Iafallo goal to me was the one that was just the nail in the coffin. I felt that after they got that goal, it seemed like the Kings were in the Sharks' head at that point. And Iafallo with this 11th from Kopitar and Brown. I mean, Kopitar's just racking up the points, ain't he?
Oh, I mean, yeah, it's Anze Kopitar. I mean, he's going to be Anze Kopitar. Sorry, Chris making me laugh in the chat. Yeah, I mean, Anze Kopitar is he's still, he is one of the best players in the league still. So if if you give him too much time and space, he'll make you pay plenty. And I think, and I think here, the thing is, you got to remember too, like, yeah, obviously, like, again, going back to what I said earlier about, some of the veterans trying to do too much, I think. And then, like, Nyza is a first year, this is his first pro year. He's going to do things that are going to make you angry some points. But I mean, that's part of the process, right? Like, that's what you have to let these kids do. You have to let them come in. You have to let them learn, unfortunately, the hard way. So, I mean, yeah, unfortunately, he's going to make mistakes like that. And, and the whole team's out of sync. It doesn't really help anyone anyway, but it's one of those things where, obviously the defense, you'd like to be the defense to be a little bit tighter, but, they, you can't have bad defense and then just an average Martin Jones in net.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I think that was, typified, Jones's night tonight was typified by that Dustin Brown goal. Dustin Brown with a 16th on the power play, unassisted at 19:52 in the second. And I mean, I didn't like that goal. I felt as if Jones wasn't set yet. I mean, it was a 2-on-1, and he kind of, he was kind of trying to buy as much time before he went down into the butterfly. But that's the problem when you're not decisive and you're trying to, squeeze out every ounce of, of decision making there. You could see the deer in the headlights look that he was, he was going there because, his just reaction time was just kind of slow. And again, I mean, it's back-to-back nights, and he's been playing a hell of a lot of hockey. I mean, they have just been running him.
Yeah, I mean, it is back-to-back games. They did have a little bit of time off before that, though. I don't think he was. This is the Martin Jones that we know.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, this is the Martin Jones that we've gotten more often than not. Is it because he was tired? Maybe, but maybe he's just Martin Jones. Like, I don't know. I'm not going to trip over myself trying to make excuses for him. You know what I mean? Like, he might have been tired. Maybe he was. But, I mean, I don't know. Like, it's your job.
Do your job. But we'll go into that third period next. Timo Meier makes it kind of interesting with his 8th on the season. Hurdle and Donato cleaning up the loose change and not giving up on a puck in the blue paint. It came on the power play, which was good, but we'll go through the special teams tonight because I have a lot to say there. And I mean, honestly, it was just kind of a little bit of a teaser goal at that point. They looked
Mm-hmm.
like they were out of gas by the time, Timos made that goal, and kind of went down with a little bit of a whimper, and that was the game.
Yeah, I mean, I thought they played a decent third period, honestly. But it was just like you dig yourself a hole in the second, and they didn't play good in the second. I think this can kind of segue into the special teams thing. I mean, how many times have I said, like you can't like they played a really good first period, I thought, other than the goal against. And and they had the puck. And what happens when you have the puck? The other team takes penalties. What happens when you don't have the puck? You take penalties. And that's what happened in the second.
Yep. Yeah.
When you start chasing the game, you start making mistakes, and you start you start chasing the game, you start making mistakes, you start doing things that you normally, to try and gain possession of the puck. And sometimes, I think, yeah, fatigue probably played a factor tonight, across the board a little bit. But, so you're going to do things. You're going to maybe put that extra hook in to try and, to
Exactly.
catch up to a guy rather than moving your legs. And like a lot of the penalties that the Sharks took are easy penalties to draw,
They are.
and you know the Sharks screwed up when the broadcast is like, yeah, that's a penalty, and they're not complaining about like the parade to the penalty box.
Yeah, and so we've alluded a little bit to it, but both the Sharks and the Kings go 1 for 5 on their power plays respectively, and again, I don't know what it is with the power play lately, but the team could not get it into gear with their first 3 power plays. I think I only saw really the power play come alive with their 4th attempt, and by that time, the previous 2 power plays were prime for them to get back into the game, and they just utterly squandered it. And to
Mhm.
me, it's the entries are lackluster. Too many guys trying to pass up and look for the perfect shot. I mean, look at that goal tonight. It was scored on second chances, and you got to get the puck to the net. You got to funnel it to net to create
I
those.
hate that, and I also hate that Carlson and Burns are on the same power play unit again.
I don't get it. I thought we've gone
Like, I
through
really don't
this.
like that. Like, I feel
Yeah.
like you want to split those guys up, because no matter who's on the ice, whenever Brent Burns is on the ice, all the pucks go to Brent Burns. No one's allowed to shoot other than Brent Burns. And I know Carlson has needed to shoot more this year, but like, I don't know. I just feel like we've seen when the power play was good, we've seen Carlson do just fine, basically playing the entire blue line by himself.
Right.
I just the Whenever Brent Burns is on the ice, all pucks go to Burns. Burns shoots. Maybe he hits the net. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe if Joe Pavelski was here, they'd tip it in. You know. Sorry.
uh,
Sorry, I had to throw that
I know.
in. Like I don't like it. I feel like they shouldn't be on the same power play unit. When you have a wealth like that, you split it up and you make it, you spread the wealth, and you try to have, instead of like one, good power play, and then the second power play is just your whatever
Your
guys are left over.
leftovers. Yeah.
Right. Like, why?
Yeah. And the other thing too, I mean, for me, having Carlson and Burns, they're both righties. They both really like to maneuver to the slot to get to get their shots off. So they're constantly crisscrossing each other. It seems like they don't read well off of each other because they kind of want to both do the same thing. And it just makes it disjointed because they're kind of both deferring to each other. And when they start,
I find they don't. I find that's the problem, because I find even when Carlson and Burns, it's still the puck always goes to Burns.
yeah, yeah,
It's, like whenever they're on the ice together, I find like Erik Karlsson's a lot less creative on the blue line because he's just trying to do what everyone else is trying to do and find and get the puck to Burns. And I get it. Like Burns has a good shot on it. I'm not trying to diss Brent Burns here on this. But it's predictable and teams know what's coming. And so
It's a one-trick pony.
why would you put a weapon like that to just do the same thing that you could have any other blue liner do?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And then, we'll just go through the hustle stats tonight. I mean, blocks 21, giveaways 7 for the Kings. The Sharks only had 11 blocks, but 11 giveaways. I mean, that just goes to show you how sloppy they were tonight.
Yeah.
And
Probably most of the second period, because that second period was awful.
yeah, the second period was just horrible. I mean,
Right.
even if they would have played that third period in the second period, you know what I mean? It would have given them a chance to, to
It would be a completely different game.
Exactly. But when you have such a shitty second period like that, there's not much coming back.
No, you're when you have a second period like that, especially on back to backs. I mean, it's a lot easier to shut things down than it is to, like when you're down that far. It was 3-1 at that point, 4-1.
Yeah, 3-1.
Yeah. So I mean, it's not. It wasn't an ideal second period, and the second period was the deciding factor. And like again, and the Sharks, they weren't great tonight, and they weren't great, across the board, from the net out. Not going to win many hockey games like that. That's just the reality. Again, like, and I don't want to like have people think I'm mad. I'm not really mad at all because, like I said, this is the team that I thought they were.
Yeah. I mean, the wins to me have all been gravy.
For sure. Again, house money. Like if
exactly
when they were making things look interesting. But I mean, they have one more game against Anaheim, and then their schedule gets a hell of a lot harder.
Yeah, exactly. So this was definitely a game that you needed, but unfortunately the Sharks, again squander it, and the score ends up being 4-2 LA, and that ends the series. And again, I think just a missed opportunity. So let's go through the ice time tonight on the Sharks. The standout guys. Kane with 22 minutes. He led all forwards tonight. Shots on goal 4, 1 hit. To me, he had an okay game. I wouldn't say it was, standout, but I also, thought that he was trying to, funnel pucks to the net. Let's see who else is also logging some heavy minutes tonight. You got Timo with 17 minutes. I thought he bounced back a little bit tonight. He seemed like, again, like everybody else, wading into that first period, victimized in the second, but brought it in the third. Logan with 18:45, Tomash with 20:23, LeBanc with 17 minutes, and that's pretty much the ice time leaders on your forward. Oh, Rudy Balcers had 14 minutes. Wow, he had almost 4 minutes on the power play tonight. So they're continuing to show a lot of trust in him, and I think he's earned quite a bit of it. I think his play has been really good.
Yeah, I like Balcers. I am a noted Balcers guy.
Yeah, for sure. And Laurel, thank you so much for bringing that up. Yes, if you haven't already, please hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe, tell friends, and let's try to grow this thing. Laurel has been longtime faithful. She is our admin extraordinaire in the chat, so we appreciate her always doing the boosting for us. So over on the defensive side, Mario Ferraro with 20 minutes, Karlsson 22 minutes, Brent Burns 27 minutes.
Yeah.
That's part of the problem. That's part of the problem, Ian. They're just playing him way too much. I mean, why does Brent Burns get 5 more minutes than Erik Karlsson? I mean, not that Erik was all that great tonight, anyways. But I mean, like, what is the disparity in the minutes here? And I don't understand why his minutes are so skewed this season.
Because Bob Bugner, I don't
know. Bob Bugner learning from the Pete DeBoer school of running defensemen into the ground.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's the one thing I've been really, I've said a lot, is with Bob Bugner, is the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah,
and that's fine. I don't. I think that there's issues that are more significant than who's coaching this team, but I don't know. It doesn't help.
Oh, and John, appreciate the donation, super chat donation there from John. Ian and Landy, what kind of injury is Couture nursing, and he has not been the same? No, he has not. You can definitely see that, his skating has still got issues. I mean, I think Ian is on record saying it's the back. I've said that, his hands have been.
I think it's a back thing because I think if you look at the back, it just makes a lot of sense, right? Like sometimes you can have just a sore back and there's nothing wrong.
Yep.
Like there's nothing really wrong. You're just sore and it sucks because
you're old.
I mean, I'm older than I'm older than Couture. So and I'm in ridiculously far less shape than him, obviously. And I know that when my back acts up, I can't do shit either.
Yeah. And especially
I think it's the back
for the hockey,
because it just
affects
player.
Everything.
I just think a sore back would affect so many different aspects of your game. It's going to affect your skating, your shot, your ability to take contact and make contact.
Going into the boards, he just looks really weak. That's where I notice it the most, right? When he's kind of almost lurching over, he's just lost all power. And that's, you're right. It's on the back. Again, I've also seen him have a weird grip on a stick this year. I feel like something's cranky with those wrists. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I don't know. I think is like when everything's all said and done. I think that's the thing I'm going to be the most fascinated by is what's up with Couture. Like, what's the official, report on what he was dealing with this season, if we even get it, which we might not. But everyone's like looking forward to like different things. I'm just looking forward to find out what happens to Couture. What was wrong with him this season. I think that's the thing I'm super looking forward to at the end of the year, just because it's one of those things like I'm completely fascinated by it.
Yeah. Chris JWS on the chat. The team is going to be stagnant for a few years, that's for sure. Their salvation will come in the draft, if at all. I agree. Again, I think finally having your draft capital in line is the most important thing for the Sharks right now, and that's the way that they're going to have to dig themselves out, because they're not going to be able to do it contractually, especially with the commitments that they have. So the only way to really work on the team is via drafting and trading. And that brings us up to the deadline on Monday. I mean, Ian, the Sharks, like, again, I think that they could be take it or leave it kind of deal. If something kind of comes along, then they'll be listening, but I don't see them being active anymore unless somebody calls knocking. And
I think though, we should talk about today's move. With obviously Devin Dubnyk going out, I think, again, and this has been my opinion, the whole time, right? Like, the Sharks should be sellers. I think if they can find somebody to give you something for a guy, especially like Devin Dubnyk, it made sense to move on from Devin Dubnyk. I don't think the expectation was that he was going to be able to. I don't know if the expectation was he was going to pry the net away from Jones. I think he was just there to. I think it was just because of the compressed nature of the season. Like I don't think he was brought in with the expectation that he was going to unseat Jones. I just think he was there to carry half the load because of the compressed nature of of the season.
Yeah, I'm with
And
you
if
there.
you,
Yeah.
and maybe, and if and if you went on a run, that was found money basically, right? Um, and again, that's why I'm not mad tonight because everything like everything that happened tonight, I'm fine with because it's the way things. I mean, obviously, I don't want to watch a game where they lose to the Kings. Don't get me wrong, because the Kings, because still FLA, but they're doing what they should be doing. They're selling. It's what they should be doing, and I think, um, it's a fifth round pick, whatever, but it's a fifth round pick you didn't have before.
I think that they gave up a fifth round in the off season for him, and then they just pick up the fifth rounder. They gave up a 2022 fifth rounder, and they get a 2021 fifth rounder. So basically, they move up a year in the draft,
Yeah.
and that's what you get out of Devin Dubnyk. Hey, not that big a deal. No money retained, so that's good. You also get Greg Pattern. A depth defenseman. I don't think anybody should really be. I actually he might draw into the lineup though because of the lefty righty skews, right? He's a
You never know.
right-handed shot, so he might see some time.
You might. I mean, but really, again, it's you flipped them for. I mean, Minnesota already retained cap, so um, the Sharks didn't have to retain any salary there, which is nice. Even though if they would have, it would have probably been, itty bitty. But I think the Sharks are in a great position where, they can leverage cap space. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that hopefully, with a flat cap being what it is, like I'm hoping they're able to do something with that for a decent return.
Yeah, I mean, you still have Taylor Hall kind of, left out in the wind. I wouldn't be surprised if the Sharks are in on retaining some salary there to to make a trade like that work, or something like that where they just take on the dead cap space.
Take the dead cap space and
Get
pick up a second for it
Yeah,
or even a
exactly,
first.
exactly.
Joking. Like you're laughing, man.
Yeah,
Like that's the kind of things that they should be trying to do. If if somebody calls in a guy, you listen. I don't know who. Again, I don't know who is the big want off this roster. Like I really don't see anyone. You know, I don't think Marlowe's going anywhere.
yeah. I don't see Marlowe going anywhere. I think Kevin LeBanc for me is the guy that's still got the question mark around his name. Um, I don't think that the organization is totally in love with him, and I could
Oh, they
see
gave him a lot of money for a guy they don't love.
that is true. That is true. But I mean, I don't know. Going through, let's see here. Adrian Sierra with saying sign Gusev. I mean, I don't think that there's any chance that Gusev's gonna sign with the Sharks. Unfortunately, the Sharks just aren't.
I'm curious to see what he does next. I'm curious to see if he sticks around or not.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I could see him going back to the K, right?
I mean, that possibility absolutely exists. So
Yeah, yeah. And the
I, I
Sharks
I'm
are.
curious to see what he does. I'm not saying like that's going to happen, but that's obviously an option.
Yeah, yeah, and really the Sharks have had very hit or miss success with Russian players. I mean, it's just not it's not their forte. It was lucky that they got Knyzhov this year. Been a very
Do they?
big
I know,
pleasant
like
surprise.
what's like where's Gusev? New Jersey, right? Like
Yeah,
what's he even making right now? I wonder what he would eat for. I don't know. I just don't see the fit with the Sharks.
yeah,
Like I don't know where you'd put him.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think to me the Sharks, if they're looking for something for the roster for the future, they desperately need a center, right? I mean, that's what the organization needs, is another center. And I mean, again, maybe Gusev's an upgrade on Balcers, maybe, but how can you pick up a guy like that and then slot him in where when Balcers has been doing his best night in, night out?
I just think and I think they're probably pretty happy with what they're getting from Balcers right now. Maybe they're not, but I think that's the thing, right? Like you can acquire all the guys you want, but then it's like, who's the coach going to put in the lineup?
Yeah.
Like I just that's obviously the concern, right? And I think, like, obviously Bob Bugner has liked Balcers enough to put him where he's playing. Especially when you consider, like, forget outside the organization, when you look at how well Blichfeld's playing in the AHL. And, okay, he had his one game and he got suspended, and that certainly didn't make a great impression. But you would figure, like, if the Sharks were looking to plug a guy into the lineup, isn't that your guy? Like, one you already got in your organization?
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that you definitely look to see what the kids have. And Adrian on saying they need a goalie, and I'm not convinced that the Sharks are looking for one right now. I think they're trying to figure out.
That's a summer problem.
Yeah, exactly. I think that they're just looking at what they've got in Melnichuk and Kozhinash, and going from there. And look, I think both you and I are on the same page with Martin Jones. I think that that's a day one buyout.
Oh yeah, if they don't buy out Martin Jones, I'm gonna come on here and scream at the top of my lungs, and it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like just something that you can just like capture a clip of and just play it forever.
Well, Ian, I mean, I'm feeling like we should start to wrap it up here and get out of here. Do you have any prognostication on the rest of what the trade deadline looks like? I've been on the record. I think it's going to be fairly light.
It's going to be interesting. I don't think we're going to see any like huge fireworks, which means we're going to get fireworks, because that's what always happens. Is the one you're like, oh, I feel like every year we go like, oh, the trade deadline's going to be awesome, and then there's like 4 trades. I think this is going to be probably the year where everyone's like, flat cap, no cap space, nothing's going to happen, and then a million things will probably happen just to spite us. But I don't think it's going to be an overly exciting trade deadline at all, to be completely honest. I think you're going to get 1 or 2 big moves, like, if that, like, maybe, and I don't know if they're going to be big. I think you're going to get like a couple medium moves that are going to look big because there's nothing else to compare them to.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have any. I'm not excited about this the trade deadline at all, to be completely honest.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think just the uncertainty with COVID. I think the money, I think, is a concern right now in the NHL for the owners, and I don't blame them. I mean, a lot of the ownership in the NHL has taken a big hit from COVID, and again, that I think will trickle down into the trade market as well. So,
Adrian in the chat, is there anything Martin Jones can do to change your mind? No, because we've seen him for 3. Like, we've had 1 good year of Martin Jones and then some not really good. Like, if you don't understand what Martin Jones is at this point, I don't know how to help you.
Yeah.
Like, is there nothing? No, because he's had too many. His stellar stints have been like his peaks have been far less frequent than his valleys. I think that's the best way to put it. Like, yeah, he's had some peaks, but the valleys are really, really deep.
And the other thing too, Ian, that's masking this, and I think a lot of people need to realize, is how well he's played against LA and Anaheim. I think that really skews his numbers. If you take out the LA and Anaheim games against, off of Jones's record, I think he's sub 900. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there is nothing because I don't think there's anything to convince. Like there, yeah, like yeah. I mean, obviously, with the way the schedule goes, when you have a stretch like this, where I think that you can pad your numbers a little bit. But at the same time, like I just think like if you look at the overall numbers, like I know some people are like, well, we'll save like save percentage is a team stat. Okay, fine, yeah, maybe to an extent, but like I can show you goaltenders that have suffered through worse defensive teams than this one.
John Gibson. John Gibson.
Connor Hellebuck,
Connor Hellebuck. Yeah.
right? Like, yeah, like maybe on a better defensive team, like you would get league average goaltending out of Martin Jones, but we haven't got that for 3 years. 3 years without league average goaltending. Like at what point do you have to like I understand, I remember the cup run too, guys. And I'm not gonna take anything away from that. And I reminisce about those days. But my God, like again, if I don't know if you can't see Martin Jones for what he is at this point, I don't know how to convince you.
Yeah.
And I don't think him, you know, being great and somehow dragging this team into a playoff spot would change my mind because again, there have been peaks, but the valleys have been so much more vast and so they've been so much deeper and so wide. Like I don't know how to I if you are not convinced that Martin Jones isn't the answer for this team, I don't know how to convince you.
Yeah, no, I'm totally on board with you, and if you're a fan of European hockey, then the the goaltending stat that they use quite frequently is goals against. That is their. I mean, the European leagues really focus heavily on GAA, and in the last 4 seasons, or excuse me, the last 3 seasons above, pretty much a 3 or above. Before that, it was ticking at 2.55, which is still not great.
Yeah, and here's the thing too, right? And the other thing you have to remember is this team is cash strapped, right? Even if okay, let's say I'm not saying Martin Jones isn't an NHL goalie, but he sure as hell isn't a $6 million NHL goalie.
Yep. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. With that being said, I think we're going to end it here, ladies and gentlemen. We really appreciate everybody coming out. Again, if you haven't already, like and subscribe the video. Of course, you can always tip us using the YouTube chat, or the Venmo is also a great way to do it. Actually, probably the better way, at Teal Town, USA. Well, in case you missed us, please go ahead and check us out on all of your pod-catching applications of choice. We've got the Apple Podcasts, Google Play Store, YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, iHeart. Pretty much if there's a platform, we're on it, ladies and gentlemen. Ian, what's your final thoughts and where the people can find you?
You can find me at Ian Blogs Hockey on the Twitter machine. I've been kind of quiet lately. I apologize for that. I think my final thoughts, I mean, when the Sharks do bad, it's bad, I guess. I don't know. Let's hope, my final thoughts are let's hope that we see some assets come in the door for some players going out. And, I'm hoping that if a player does go out, then, if it's a player I like, I hope they Barclay Goodrow it up.
Oh, yeah, that would be great. As far as where you can find me, you can use my first name, that's ERIK, and you can use my last name, LANDI, on all the social media garbage. I'm there. Just use the first and the last name, and you'll find me. As far as my final thoughts on this game and what to look forward to, I think, again, the team really needs to maximize the cap space that it has to get some assets. Again, if they can move some roster pieces and get some more assets, that's a good thing too. Sell, 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 sell.
Yeah.
And that being said, you all keep it real, keep it teal, keep it real teal. Thanks for joining us tonight, and we will see you on the flip side after the Anaheim game.